All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Experts Unplugged Speaker Spotlights from the Craft Brewers Conference. And this one's exciting because, again, we're after the conference, so we can really bring you some of our insights, the trends that we saw in case you didn't make it to the conference, or perhaps you only got to be a part of it. There were so many wonderful educational speakers that you might not have gotten to all of ours. So I'm really excited. I'm Joanne Newborn of Newborn Evolution, and I am here today with David Scott Peters, and he's a restaurant coach and speaker who teaches restaurant operators how to cut costs and increase profits with his trademark restaurant prosperity formula. Now, being in the alcohol beverage industry for decades, and knowing how the industry is changing, I know this is like a huge benefit for restaurateurs and breweries. So I'm so excited to talk about David. He's known as the restaurant expert in the industry, and he uses a no BS style to teach and motivate restaurant owners to take control of their business and finally realize their full potential. So, welcome, David. Excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So I would just love to hear what were some of like the key takeaways that you discovered from your talk that you did at the Craft Brewers Conference? Like, what were people really most interested in?
I think really understanding the people that were in my room understood that as brewers, as tap rooms, as restaurants, you probably have a food and beverage component if you're sitting in my room, and that we have to change how we operate. Meaning, I was in the brew pub industry back in the early 90s as a manager. Started as a bartender, worked in management and operations manager, and went from one location to two locations. And in the early 90s, this is when brew pubs were opening one a week. And it was gangbusters. And about a year later, we were closing almost as quickly. And the reason being is, as operators, as brew pubs at that time, all we cared about was putting out craft beer, incredible craft beer. We were beer geeks. Like, I could take people through the brewing process and, tour them through the brewery, do all the things, line up the samples. And we were so proud of our beer. Yet over time, our service wasn't quite as it should have been, and it was inconsistent. Our food wasn't what it should have been. It was inconsistent. Our costs were too high, from labor to food costs, because we could brew beer for 25 cents a pint back in the day. And so we were making hand over fist money because the beer was flowing. But as a restaurant, as a hospitality industry, we were failing. And we're seeing that again today. We're seeing it because costs have climbed. So you don't have, as an operator, the ability to make the profit like we used to on our beer. It's still extremely profitable. But as a restaurant, now you have a brewer and you've got assistant brewers, and you've got new costs in all of your janitorial expenses, and you've got holding inventory, because as we brew 14 days in advance and have holding tanks and kegs full of things, and now we've got tariffs, and we've got our costs are going up because just tin cans, because of the freaking aluminum tariffs. Like, just challenge after challenge after challenge, and then add minimum wage increases, food costs going through the roof. The people in my room really had to wake up and understand we need to run our business like a business. And so we focused on labor, and we focused how I could help you change your mindset, understand you need to run on a budget, you need to schedule on a budget. But more importantly, I gave my attendees a system they could actually go home with. And not only did I teach you the system on how to budget labor, how to tell your managers how many hours and dollars you have to schedule, but I gave them it with a video on how relearning the lesson I just taught, a video on how to use the Google Sheet and the actual Google Sheet. And I promised my attendees they could drop their labor cost by 1 to 2 points. Some were going to do much more. Yeah. And that it would be the best thing they did at that conference, because they could actually go home and pay for the trip 10 times over. And so, we talked about the things that you did wrong, and that's from scheduling with using the wrong targets, one you got out of thin air or a magazine article, to the bad habits of scheduling like you always do and promising people hours and only copying a schedule from one week to the next, nothing to do with sales, and looking at our labor costs when it's too late. That typical Friday, holy crap, let's look at labor and go, cut, like a chicken with your head cut off, because you're paying attention to the end of the week, not on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and so on. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, from the people that were in the room to the problems that I helped them solve, but more importantly, the tool I gave them to really make a change.
That's great. The labor piece is so important. And I think, even beyond the restaurant industry, you and I were chatting a little bit before this, and we were talking about how fear is just such a big driver of part of the problem as well. And I can see, I do frequent breweries and wineries. I'm passionate about it, right, in my personal life and in my business life. And I see a pattern arising where the staff are not really like stepping up the way they should. And owners are afraid to train them properly and ask them to do things. So I'll just give you a quick example, because it happened to me at gorgeous winery, amazing winery, and an incredible brewery that's literally down the street from me. I walked in as a consumer and I asked someone about two of the products that they had on the menu. And I am used to someone, being there and giving me all the details with pride, right? If you work at a winery or a brewery, like that's what you're about. You're like, hey, if you like this, you're going to probably want this, and this tastes like this, and would you like to take? And literally at the brewery, they basically just wanted me to put my order into like a machine. They didn't want to tell me anything. They kind of like didn't even give me the menu. And at the winery, they were like, well, we have Chardonnay and a Sauvignon Blanc. And I'm like, well, I could go down the street to the pizza place and they've got the same thing. What's the differentiator? And I would say the owners are afraid to ask for anything more from their staff these days because they're so afraid that people are going to leave. And I'd love to get your perspective on that.
100%. As you and I discussed before we got on here, I think the number one challenge restaurant owners, entrepreneurs in general, have is fear. We're fearful of making a decision because we don't know what the outcome will be. And because we're fearful of it, we make a decision by not making a decision. We're going to live with what we have, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. As a tap room operator, as a restaurateur, you sit there and say, hey, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. These people, they don't want to work. These people are idiots. By the way, if you call your team an idiot, I want you to know that you selected them, you hired you trained them, you manage them on a daily basis. I don't believe they're idiots. We create idiots by not giving them the right training, supervision, the guardrails and support to be successful. So we have this self-fulfilling prophecy. We're fearful of, if I push my employees, I'll lose them. Bullshit. You've got employees who are dying for structure. What they hate is the inconsistency in management, enforcing rules one day, another day. I like you, I dislike you. Learning about standards on the fly because you're so tired of telling people that in the middle of a rush, you tell somebody like a drive-by. You train them by telling them in the middle of the rush as things are exploding behind you, and you have said, I told them these people are idiots. Well, no. You've got to document your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. Yes. You have to train those things. You have to make sure your employees know what their job is, how to do it, how well it should be done, more importantly, by when. So having somebody follow, in your examples, they probably had somebody follow a server who was leaving, and they told them how they did things in their own way, not the way the restaurant wanted done, the way they did things. And here's somebody who didn't give a shit anyway. And so they're not training. Follow somebody and do what I do is not a training system. And then we throw them out onto the floor and we get these horrible Yelp reviews because, like you, have this experience. Oh, the service was horrible. How could it be horrible? If you're a brew pub, if you're a tap room, if you're a winery specifically, You are the differentiation point. What makes us unique is our product. We make it here. You had better be so educated that there are only two types of beer, top fermenting, bottom fermenting. You should know that everything else is a style, and you need to know if something was roasted, if something was hoppy, if something was floral, because that's what that consumer wants to hear. They want to be educated, which comes back to the beginning of this. The self-fulfilling prophecy of being fearful that our people are going to leave and not give them the training and be fearful of pushing them, asking more of them, is the reason why you have a revolving door and you don't have good employees, is the reason why you're working 80 hours a week and you're the walking encyclopedia to the restaurant, because everybody defers questions to you because you're going to do it right. I don't want to be yelled at. I don't want to do it wrong. So I'm not going to even think. I'm going to ask you. It's the same reason why your Yelp reviews are bad and the restaurant is chaotic to run.
Yeah.
Because we don't have our SOPs. We've not trained our people. We've not tested them and ensured they know, again, what their job is, how to do it, how well it should be done, more importantly, by when, before they ever hit the floor independently and could do damage to my business.
Yeah.
So guess what? The solution to that is knowledge. We can overcome all of our fears when we know. So we've got to do things like listen to the two of us talk right now and pick up one good idea. Go to a convention, learn 1-2 good things, bring them home and work on them. Go on the internet, take webinars, read books, join organizations, learn from each other. Because the more we learn, the easier this business gets. The more we stay in our four walls and bitch and moan, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to get better.
Yeah, everything is so true about that. And you said a key word, like chaos. Now, I work with a lot of organizations, and some of them are smaller, and we'll help them get off the ground. And sometimes I'll walk in. I recently went to one of my clients to do a team meeting, and it was chaos. So I spoke to the owner after, and I said, listen, and I work with them on, first of all, creating what is their leadership brand for themselves, because you're always modeling these behaviors, which leads to the culture that you're going to have. And every, brewery is going to have their own culture as well. Mm-hmm. And and it's continuous chaos because, like you said, those SOPs aren't being put in place, right? We're working towards that. And the person got upset with me. And I've had this happen a couple of times. All you do is talk about leadership and culture. That's where it starts, right? That's the North Star. You can give people skill sets and things to do, which are really important. But if you're not leading at the helm that people want to follow you, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you have to be that guiding North Star for your entire team.
100%. I always call myself the systems guy. I can teach you all the systems you need to operate a business profitably, from training to leadership to cost controls, you name it, budgeting. And I say those are just tools. The first part of the restaurant prosperity formula is becoming the leader your restaurant needs. Because just because you own a business doesn't make you a born leader, and it takes leadership to be successful. And a part of that is the fourth piece of this is accountability. So if I'm leading people and I've got systems and I've got the training, if I don't hold them accountable as the leader, if I don't say this is what's important, here's my training, here's my checklist, this is what's important, and I'm going to hold you accountable to that because that standard matters, our culture becomes what we're willing to tolerate. Yeah. If we're willing to tolerate some days the restaurant being open properly or not, closed properly or not, a table served properly or not, then that's what you as a leader have said it's not important. I tolerate inconsistency. I tolerate shit not getting done my way. But instead, we view it as my people are idiots. These people don't want to work. What a so overused statement. I don't know how old you are. I'm about to turn 60. Every generation from mine all the way since behind me, somebody has bitched and moaned about that. These people, they don't want to work. Bull. You're killing me. They don't want to be, and today they're more sensitive to it. They don't want to be put in a situation where they're told what they're doing wrong on a daily basis because nobody told them what right looks like. Nobody trained them on how the steps to be successful. And nobody's willing to hold everybody else accountable to it. So they get yelled at and they ghost your ass and they're not going to be there tomorrow. Right. That's the difference between today's generation and me as a Gen Xer. I'm a survivor. I was abused in this restaurant industry, like 80 hours a week, yelled at, pots and pans thrown at me, brewers backing me out with a hose. Like none of that shit would work today.
Yeah.
However, the reality is today's generation is right. They deserve training. Mm-hmm. They deserve support. They deserve accountability. They deserve you to be the leader they need. And that's where it's a wake-up call for the hospitality industry right now. Is it's not the generations bad. It's our old habits are outdated and they're bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, giving first, whether it's the trainings, everything that they need to be successful, and then you will receive in return. That's the only way it goes, right? You don't receive first and then give. So great points. So what else did you see in terms of trends, in terms of your area of expertise, whether it was at your talk or at the conference itself?
I'm going to tell you that I didn't spend a lot of time going to the different education sessions and what have you. I'd actually been in town, had some other things I needed to do. I got to spend some time with a member. I got to see one of my team members, meet some of the vendors that are out there for accounting and things that are operationally universal for what I do. Walked up and down the show floor, and I'll tell you, I did not associate very well with all the equipment and things like that because brewing equipment is brewing equipment and it's not my life anymore. Mm-hmm. But talking to vendors, like I talked to an accounting firm that was there and hearing the same challenges from them. I've got these clients, these brew pubs. I tell them what they need to get done and they look at me and they don't do it. And all we're doing is taxes and all we're doing is numbers and they're not getting the right data. And they come up with the same excuses why stuff's not getting done. And this accounting firm actually really cared and gave them ideas and they wouldn't take action. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest failures in leadership as restaurant owners is making sure we don't fall into, and really that's not conference specific, it is industry specific. If you find yourself in a fixed mindset, people say the government is screwing me, the employees are idiots, my vendors are screwing me, my customers are all Karens, excuse me if your name is Karen, like just the life is horrible. Look what life is doing to me in my restaurant. It's all out of my control. And I'm just going to bitch and moan about all these bad things. If you focus on those bad things and you bitch and moan about it, guess what? You're a horrible leader. You want to know why your sales are down. You want to know why your employees are leaving you. You want to know why your customers don't come back. You are leading your business down a negative path and everybody feeds on that energy. Instead, you've got to possess a growth mindset. And a growth mindset person has the same challenges. Labor costs are going up, food costs are going up, the government regulations are through the roof, the tariffs are hitting us. Our margins are disappearing because we have all this tech stack and taxes due and all these things. But instead, a growth mindset person doesn't go, oh, look at what's happening to me. They go, look what's happening.
Yeah.
What can I do that's in my control that I can change? I can change a government regulation. I can't change minimum wage. I can't change the fact that tariffs are putting aluminum through the roof. What I can change is how I market. I can change how I train. I can change my business model. I can change my menu. I can get ingenuitive and do things different and learn. And that's the key, is those restaurant owners that are willing to shift and make sure they're in a growth mindset. They have every opportunity to be successful because they will see opportunities. See, opportunities approach us all the time, but when we're stuck in a negative mind frame, you don't ever see them.
Right.
When you're in a position where you still have challenges, but I can outwork it, I can outlearn it, I have more drive, I will get through it. By the way, it's also our Achilles heel, because entrepreneurs, sometimes we don't know when it's time to give up, because we're so optimistic that next month, next week, right, we have that idea. But the fact of the matter is, by having that idea, nothing's going to stop us. And you're going to find success. It doesn't mean success is a straight line up or down, or man, we have the same up and down patterns as somebody with a fixed mindset. Get hit with COVID as an industry. We get hit with tariffs. We get hit with labor costs. But the fact is, you find solutions, because you have to make it. You're an entrepreneur. You opened a business. Now let's go figure out what we need to do. And this goes back to your very first comment, knowledge, right? Fear is lack of knowledge. Go learn. Yeah. Freaking do what you've got to do. It is your job as a leader to learn how to get past all these roadblocks.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This is so good. And I'm a big fan of that book, Mindset, also by Carol S. Dweck. So if anyone's listening and you haven't read it, you should go read it. It's fantastic. And I love the idea too, and I didn't make this up. I'm a big fan of David Nagel, and he said, the money is always out there. It's just in somebody else's hands, right? So it's always possible to get it into your own. And today, the consumer is changing, right? They care more about experiences than they do about brand loyalty. And like you said, that's knowledge. That's okay. Why are people going places? Because it makes them feel good. They're having a good time there. So how do you change your model to be able to fit in what's going on in the world today? But you have to be open to it and have that growth mindset to be able to pivot. I saw some of the most innovative things happening during COVID in the town that I lived in, with the restaurants, and the ones that just kind of shut their doors and waited for COVID to end went out of business. And the ones that took the opportunity to think in big and different ways and take risks flourished. They were probably making more money than they were before COVID.
Yeah, no, it as entrepreneurs, I don't care what industry. I happen to think that the restaurant industry, the hospitality industry, brew pub industry, tap room, all in the same thing, caterers, we're in the toughest business I know. There are literally so many other industries. You're, as an entrepreneur, you're going to have a director of finance, and you're going to, or a CFO, you're going to have a director of marketing, you're going to have a department for this, a department for that, a department for this. And you've got all these people to delegate to that are high level and you can count on. In the restaurant business, you are the government agent. You are the product procurement officer. You are the marketing expert. You are the HR person. You're the government regular. Like, you have to do all these things. Oh, by the way, by yourself at the same time. And it gets so frustrating and so difficult. And this is where you've got to have systems in place, standard operating procedures. I cannot stress enough, for those who are listening to us right now, what the hell is a system? A system is anything that gets done in your restaurant on a daily basis. Ordering pens. Like, I can't tell you how many operators go, oh my God, these servers, they steal our pens. I don't have any pens. I got to hold on to my pen for dear life. We've got no pens. And then they want to get a guest check signed, and I need a pen, and they steal the pen, and the pen is gone. Customers take pens. How could you be out of pens? Oh, you don't have a system that somebody, one person is responsible for taking inventory of pens, has a credit card or petty cash to go buy pens and make sure every week there are pens for the restaurant. Right. And it can go systems all the way up to dollars per labor hour worked and looking at efficiencies. But there's a system, a process, a way to doing anything and everything in your business. But we have to document it, because if it's not documented, it's in your head. And if it's in your head, you are the bottleneck of your business, because everybody has to ask you. And that's a horrible place to be. So, if you want, we can talk about how you can easily document your SOPs, because it's much easier today than it used to be. But you've got to have a system documented. Otherwise, it's not trainable. It's not inspectable. It is not something we can hold people accountable to. And we cannot add clarity to anybody's job when it's a story that's been handed down from one person to the next.
Yeah, so important. And when you have systems, your time management becomes so efficient. The time to do the things that you probably don't want to do become reduced tremendously. And the time that you have to expand your business increases tremendously. So such great points. Okay, if there's one thing that you want people to walk away with from our chat, what would you like them to remember or think about?
I think I'm going to go down the mindset route. Systems are wonderful. Systems are easy. I can get you excited about doing a checklist. I can get you excited about counting inventory. I can get you excited about creating an SOP. I can get you motivated to do so. But we need to understand as owners that motivation's temporary. And all too often, when we get motivated, we get ourselves in a positive mindset. We want to take on the world. I am going to create not only one SOP, I'm going to create a binder, and I'm going to create this incredible manual. And SOPs that you create in that kind of format, where you sit at your desk and you're like, I'm going to pound all these things out. That is a place where digital systems collect dust and go to die. If it's in a manual like that, it's not going to happen. You have got to say, I'm not going to take on 7 things at once. Pick one pain point in your operation where you're being asked the same question over and over again. You've told it 873 times. A problem that is keeping you up at night. A challenge that you're going to go nuts, bananas, if somebody does it wrong one more time. Pick that one thing. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to document it. And the way you're going to do it is you're going to grab your phone and you're going to have one of your best people do it, explain it, all the things. You're going to record it. Then what I want you to do is get it transcribed. Then you're going to drop it into Chat GPT, Claude, or the like.
Yeah.
And you're going to give it a prompt to create an SOP that says what the job is. Let me know when things need to be done, what success looks like, what are the inspection points for a manager if they looked at it. Keep it in plain, simple language and easy to follow. Create that SOP for me. And all of a sudden, boom, you have this video that became a transcript that became ChatGPT, and it's written in simple language. And all of a sudden, we have a trainable, duplicatable process that we can train to, we can inspect, we can no longer let somebody go, you did it wrong, and make them feel stupid. Instead, we go, let's review the SOP. Step 4 said we needed to do this. What got in your way? How come that didn't happen? Now we're coaching. Like all of a sudden that clarity can change your world. And we do the first system, then the next, and the next, and the next. And all of a sudden you're building yourself what I call restaurant prosperity, which is freedom for your restaurant and the financial freedom you deserve. Because your SOPs allow everyone else to know exactly with clarity what that job is, what success looks like, and every step that needs to happen. And it doesn't require you anymore. And so we've got to get ourselves into that mindset that we can get this done. Do not tackle the world at once. Do one thing at a time. And the next thing you know, one system leads to another, and you've got time off, and you've got managers, you got people doing things your way when you're there, but especially when you're not, and you're making money. It's a long process, but it's not rocket science.
Yeah, so good. This is so good, David. Thank you so much. How can people get in touch with you? Because there's a lot of rich information here.
Well, you can either email me at david@davidscottpeters.com.
Mm-hmm.
Visit me at davidscottpeters.com. You can book a discovery call with one of my team members. You can also circle around. You don't have to come find me. You can go to David Scott Peters on YouTube. I put out weekly tips. I've got a Restaurant Prosperity Formula podcast, comes out every other week. You can find my book on Amazon or any of your resellers called Restaurant Prosperity Formula, What Successful Restaurateurs Do. You can circle around. You don't have to give me your name, nothing. And I provide information all the time. In fact, right before we did this, I do a live on YouTube every Friday that I don't travel called Shoot the Shit with DSP. And so there are so many different ways you can learn about whether I'm full of it or not, and if there's a match before you ever contact me. But you can always reach out at david@davidscottpeters.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And this was such a fascinating chat. And I look forward to connecting in the future.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much.